Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about what, in my humble opinion, is the first human language discovered by Dungeons & Dragons. And the name of that first human language discovered by Dungeons & Dragons, in my humble opinion, is Scryfjorn. Let's get into this. All right. So, in my humble opinion, Dungeons & Dragons has never been a game. I think that Dungeons & Dragons was created as a human flourishment engine, a specific tool used to massively accelerate human flourishment that was designed by Gary Gygax and specifically hidden as a game and released as a game in 1974. And in my humble opinion, the reason Gary chose to do that was that he knew nobody ever changed the world with broccoli. You change the world with chocolate, right? And so that's why Gary, in my humble opinion, disguised Dungeons & Dragons as a game, even though it was really the most powerful secular human flourishment tool that's ever been created, okay? So in 1974, when Dungeons & Dragons dropped under Gary Gygax's genius, it fundamentally changed the way humanity engages with identity, and it fundamentally changed the way we value and the way we use stories, okay? They would never, humanity's relationship with identity and narrative would never be the same after that fateful day that Dungeons & Dragons was released in 1974. Out of a necessity, I think Gary knew when these load-bearing walls of human relationships was changed forever, there would be a necessity for new language. And so I think he configured Dungeons & Dragons specifically to discover new languages for humanity, right? And so the first discovered language, the first language that, in my humble opinion, Dungeons & Dragons has discovered for humanity is specifically Scryfjorn. And guess what? I'm the first person ever to speak Scryfjorn. So what is Scryfjorn? So Scryfjorn is a new human language, and in my humble opinion, this is what Scryfjorn is. Okay, it is a new human language, and what does it do? So it is specifically, it's very unusual language. Okay, it is one person speaks Scryfjorn to themselves. Scryfjorn to themselves. Right. So I speak Scryfjorn to me. So let's talk about that. So if I'm speaking Scryfjorn to myself, what am I saying? All right. So let's get into it. So what is Scryfjorn? It is a language of eternal note taking. All right. So I absolutely love to take notes, but that's not uncommon. I listened to the Slate Political Gabfest. And one of my favorite lines that they talked about recently was John Dickerson is also a massive note taker, and he was really funny. He said, he was talking about field notes, which is a specific type of notebook, and he was talking to his co-hosts Emily Bazelon and David Plotz, and they're like, so when you buy one of these, he's like, well, I don't buy field notes. I have a subscription. Right, and so he was saying that he gets notebooks sent to him on a regular basis. He doesn't go into a store and just buy a blank notebook. He gets specialized notebooks sent to him at a regular frequency, right? And I was like, this is my man, really. This is my dude, right? And so I have to explain to you, I've reached a point in my life where it is physically painful for me not to be able to take notes, and it took me a while to understand why this happened and where I actually, where all of this actually landed, right? And the reason that we reached this point, right, is specifically, I became a dungeon master when I was 12 years old, right? And it hit me like a comet, just Dungeons & Dragons just came down from the sky and just slammed into my heart, and it never left, right? And it utterly changed me, because I was like, wait a second, I'm going to make as many worlds as I want, and I'm going to populate them with as many people as I want, and I'm going to populate them with new both beasts and monsters, and I will design all of it, and then I will I will manifest this for other people at the table, and then I will display all these beautiful things I've shown them, but I'll also destroy them if any of them even raise a single eyebrow in rejection of my concepts, and then I'll incorporate their ideas, and I was like, I'm a world maker, I'm a world breaker, I'm a world shaker. It told me who I was, right? Like, and then it utterly changed the world for me, right? So every single person I ever talked to, every single thing I saw, no longer went through, I'm experiencing this as a human. It went through, I'm experiencing this as a dungeon master. Not only do I need to understand it and feel it, not only do I need to set this into my own memory, my own sensation, my own emotions, I need to be able to deliver this as memories, sensations, and emotions for others, right? And so every single person, every single event, every single thing that came in front of me came under this milieu of, I can't lose the best of it, right? And so if a person's talking to me and I'm like, I cannot lose this language, I cannot lose that sentence, I cannot lose the emotion they just expressed, I cannot lose the memory they gave me, because this is beautiful and precious, and I need it to build worlds in the future and now, right? Like, and it made, and so it locked in me this like passionate, burning desire to take notes, because I could never lose any of the best, right? And I've reached this point in my life where I constantly have a pen, and a pen in my hand and paper in my hand, and that's a whole video in itself, that, like, anybody who takes notes will tell you never take notes on a phone, right? Like, or any kind of electronic device. Paper is unbeatable. And that came from Gary, right? Like, it all comes from Gary, right? And I reached this point where I cannot be without notes, and I'm constantly note-taking. And so, and this need to take notes all the time also meant that there was never an event that hit me, never a person in front of me who was just being experienced as a human by me. There was always this, like, I'm experiencing this as a human, but I'm also experiencing this as a dungeon master, and I have to be able to convey it, right? And so it gave me a level of interest in science, theology, politics, and philosophy that is unmatched in any person I've ever met, right? Like, I'm never not interested in what is in front of me. The concept of boredom is completely alien to me, right? And it has transformed me, right? And so it is this language that I am constantly speaking to myself, right? Like, close to constant. I would say it's like 90% of the time I'm taking notes, right? And this constantly talking to myself through notes and capturing all the best of what I experience, experiencing it as a human, having my own memories, sensations, and emotions, but also capturing and saying the best of it, I have to be able to capsulize it and carry it forward to others as new, fresh, dramatic memories, sensations, and emotions, has changed me. I speak a language to myself that no one else around me speaks, and can you imagine speaking a language that no one else speaks, right? Like, I have to stop myself from weeping when I sit in front of a room and there'll be a speaker up there, and people will just be listening with their ears and looking with their eyeballs and not capturing any of it, right? And I'm like, how can you live like this, right? And so Scryfjorn is eternal note-taking. It is someone who no longer engages with the world as a human, but also no longer as only a human, but engages with the world as a human and as a dungeon master. And the only response to understanding what a dungeon master is someone who does not have the privilege of stopping learning, right? And I just can't, and stopping capturing the best to give to their players, right? And so Scryfjorn, I'm the first person in the world to speak it. I'm very proud of that, and has been a painful journey, right? But like, D&D is the forge I have been built in, right? Like, and it is one of the forges, I would say, that I have been built in. And it is I would say it is the forge, right? Like, my raw ore, me, what is me, right? That is really unique and special from the perspective of God made me. He made the raw ore of me, right? But it's really, I've really been forged through Dungeons and Dragons, which is incredible. And what's really the first thing that's been fundamentally attached to me is this new language. Now that I've identified that I speak Scryfjorn, I think there are others who speak Scryfjorn. Do you? Do you speak Scryfjorn? Are you the second person in the world to speak Scryfjorn? In my humble opinion, Scryfjorn is the first human language discovered by Dungeons and Dragons. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.